Swagatam. Welcome. Welcome to the Annisquam Village Church. My name is Reverend Deirdre White, and I have the privilege and honor of being the pastor of this church and of welcoming you all this afternoon for this historic occasion when we come together as the church of 2013, 120 years after we received our honored visitor who is with us today, Swami Vivekananda. And we know that you have come here because this is a sacred site. This is a pilgrimage site for the Vedanta societies of the world. And we appreciate your coming here, especially because to have a convergence of this sort reminds us who are here every week of the holiness of this place, which perhaps we take for granted. And so having you here inspires us, endows us with a feeling of being part of something much larger than we can possibly imagine. And I think we are all part of that. So I would like to welcome you here, and I would like to welcome both Swami Yogamananda and Swami Tayagananda from Providence and from Boston as well as all the many people that have made this possible, and all the people that are here to enjoy and to celebrate this convergence of traditions that happened in this small place 120 years ago. So I would like to ask the Swamis to begin our program with Vedic chanting.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Stirairangaistuštuvagam sastanubhihi Vyashema devahitayadayuhu Swasti na indro vrittashravaha Swasti na pusha vishvavedaha Swasti na starksho arishtademihi Swasti no brihaspatir dadhatu. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om.
I would like to ask Swami Yogasmanda from the Providence Vedanta Society to make his remarks.
Dear Reverend Dedra, dear Swami Tyagananda, and all the dear devotees and friends from this county as well as coming from far off places. I know a lady has come specially from Colorado to attend this function. There are so many people who have come from far distances, especially to attend this service. And we had been, from Vedanta Society, cherishing this moment. Our Swamis and devotees, they had been visiting this place as a place of pilgrimage. Because now you heard this beautiful song. It describes that the mission of Vivekananda, it really got launched from here. And so this spot, this place, has always been very dear, very sacred to the devotees of Swami Vivekananda, and so they always loved to come and pray here. So it was a long-standing wish that may we have a service combined with the church service here someday. And as the Providence would have it, I don't mean the Providence Vedanta Society, there's the Providence. As the Providence would have it in the 150th anniversary of Swami Vivekananda, this great occasion has come. Swami Vivekananda, the great visionary, the harbinger of the, you can say, spiritual renaissance, and a person who really instilled the spirit of religion, whatever the name of the religion may be. He preached the gospel that we are all divine. We are divine potentially. And we see that all religions teach this great fact. We may say that we are made in the image of God. Whatever words we may put it into, the message is very similar, that yes, we are connected with the divine. That is our true nature, and that is our goal in life. To connect religion to this goal of life makes the religion not just stuck with various forms of worship or just sticking to certain dogmas or just following certain rituals, but it becomes a dynamic, changing force in spiritual life. We start moving to the life, in the life, towards the destination. Towards the destination is very important, friends, because when the life has the destination, then everything can be of help. Without that, nothing can be of much help. As they say, that no winds can help a ship that has no port of destination. So also with our lives, friends, that there has to be the destination, the goal. And Swami Vivekananda provided that great goal that all scriptures keep before us, that to bring that spiritual vision to our life. We are divine, and the goal is to manifest that divinity in us by following what is called the path of yoga. I am, of course, not here to give a long lecture about all these things, but let us remember today this great contribution of Swami Vivekananda in enlivening our spiritual life not of just one community. He was a great bridge between East and West. between science and religion, between all different caste, race and communities, people belonging to all different religions. He brought them together in the sense that all of us have that one same goal. Our paths would be different. Perfect. We didn't come here by the same route. Whatever path was nearer to you, you took that, but came to the same destination. Exactly like that, we all have actually the same one goal, to realize our true divine nature. And doing that, Swami Vivekananda ushered the spirit of harmony of religions too. It is an automatic outcome when we understand that we all have this same one goal. Then we become united there. That becomes the bond that ties us all together. And the various religions then become the different paths that take us to that goal. We heard that this is the great mission that was launched right from this place. We know that how this place was where Vivekananda gave his first lecture, but that is a minor part. What happened was he went to Chicago to participate in the Parliament of Religions, but without proper accreditation. He was not getting the permission to be a delegate there. It is here in Annisquam, Professor John Wright. When he heard Swami Vivekananda speak right here in this hall, and then he wrote to his friend who was one of the top organizers of that conference, that Parliament of Religions, Mr. Boni, that, well, here is a man who is more learned than all our Harvard professors put together. And to ask credentials to such a person is like asking the sun, where do you have the credentials to shine? So, and that paved the path of Swami Vivekananda's great entry into Parliament of Religions at Chicago. Rest is history, friends. So now we see the influence of Swami Vivekananda. You don't see always it associated with his name, but it is his influence that has been changing the spiritual, religious life of the population all over the earth. And therefore, people in Annisquam, they should be very proud of this great legacy that they have, this little beautiful village. This is now placed on the world's spiritual map. It has acquired a very prominent position in the spiritual map of the world. And so we should really be very proud that yes, we come in Annisquam, we live in Annisquam, the place sanctified by the holy footprints of this great soul. So friends, I am not going to give a big lecture, I came here to pay my homage, and this is a great service that has been organized in the honor of Swami Vivekananda here, and I thank everyone who helped in doing this, especially Reverend Deirdre White and Kathleen Adams and everybody that is, they helped from this church. Thank you, friends.
Some of you are probably visiting this church for the first time. And some of you have been to this church many times and could always use a little refresher course on the history of this church. And I would just like to speak for a few minutes about how this church was founded, what the major influences were in its growth and its theology, and how we got to where we are now. This church was chartered in 1728 as the third parish in Gloucester, Massachusetts. Parishes were geographical entities, and this parish included the village of Annisquam, Bayview, which is further north, Lanesville, and if you cut across Dogtown, which is in the center of Gloucester, it included Sandy Bay. The first parish was downtown in Gloucester, near the seaport. Second parish no longer exists. It was in West Gloucester. So this is an old church, by American standards. Now, our first pastor was a man named Benjamin Bradstreet, a good New England name, who served 34 years from 1728 to 1762. And his initial covenant was signed by 10 members of the church, presumably men. Assuming each of those men had a spouse and a couple of children, you can imagine that this was a small church by today's standards, and it has remained a small church, growing at times to about 80 or 90 people attending. There have been times when it was on the verge of closing more than once, but still, here we are. Bradstreet navigated this church through a tumultuous period in New England religious history called the Great Awakening. And some of you may be familiar with that. There was a split, as there has been in Christianity since day one. And one of the splits involved the New Lights and the Old Lights. And this church followed the New Lights into a more flexible approach to Puritan doctrine and the loosening of ties between the church and the colonial government, which when it was founded was governed by the church in Boston. After that, we had the Revolutionary War, and the Declaration of Independence was read from the pulpit of this church. Ministers in this area were considered subversive, and we still are. The spirit of universalism came to Gloucester with John Murray in 1793, and he came from England and became the pastor of the first parish church downtown, which became the first Universalist church in Gloucester. Now, universalism derives from Calvinist teachings, which sometimes have nothing to do with Calvin, but they have been reinterpreted. It was a change in the way salvation was to be understood. Universalism remained Trinitary in nature and affirmed the incarnation of God in the person of Jesus Christ. John Murray wrote, "God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost are no more than different exhibitions of the self-same existent, omnipresent, and compassionate being." He taught that all would ultimately be saved through the love of God, exemplified in the sacrifice of Christ. The basis for this being the union of all persons in Christ. So in other words, the Universalists taught universal salvation. Its latter-day combination with the Unitarian Church has muddied some of this doctrine. And what we see in the Unitarian Universalist Church today is not necessarily what John Murray would have called universalism. But Ezra Leonard was the next long-term pastor, and he came to the church in the early 19th century. And Ezra Leonard caught the universalist spirit. And so it was brought to Annisquam while he was here. And the church voted to become a universalist society. Well, some of the people left and went up the road, as usually happens. That was the basis of this church for more than 100 years. And it was Ezra Leonard, who was here for 30 years until he died, that brought that spirit of universalism to Annisquam. During Ezra Leonard's tenure here, the church was rebuilt. So the church you're sitting in was built in 1830 and completed in 1831. Still an old building by American standards. And then, just before the arrival of Swami Vivekananda in 1893, the church was completely renovated and restored, and the pews you are sitting in now are the pews that were installed in 1892. They replaced the square family pews that we used to have in the church. Also, there were supposedly frescoes on the walls, which I guess have been painted over. And the organ was moved, as it has been moved from time to time. The organ was moved from the gallery to the main floor of the church, where it remained until it went back upstairs 26 years ago. So much was going on at the time that Swami Vivekananda was in Annisquam. And the Reverend George Penniman was the pastor at the time, but nowhere in the records that I read about Swami Vivekananda did I find mention of George Penniman's name, which is unusual. But he left in 1894. The community was very much involved in the church because there was such high turnover of pastors. And so the village had a lot to do with what was going on here. And so it was that John Henry Wright could invite Swami Vivekananda to speak here. And that's where the church was in 1893. And since then, it has gone through many changes. We are no longer called a Universalist society, although that is very much in our tradition. We are an interdenominational church. We welcome people from all denominations and faiths to our services. We consider ourselves Christian, but we also know that we are related to many other faiths through two things that I find especially strong in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. The first thing is Ramakrishna math. Am I pronouncing that right? Math? The study of scriptures, the study of philosophy. You are a people of the book just as we are a people of the book. Our books look different, but we search the scriptures for guidance and for a way of life, just as our brothers and sisters in Islam and in Judaism. The second thing is Ramakrishna mission. You practice what you study in your mission. This morning we spoke our sermon was about Mary and Martha, those two sisters, one who was always busy and one who was always sitting. And every faith group has Mary and Martha's. But what Mary and Martha's are two manifestations of the impulses that run through both our faiths, which are study and prayer, and then enactment in mission. And in saving people who need to be saved, in feeding the poor, I know that you have missions throughout India and in this country. So in that spirit, we are very much alike. And in our spirit here, we respect and love and cherish our relationship with you all. It's a very important one, and I hope that it is one that will grow in connection in the years to come. Thank you. And I would like to ask one of our parishioners, Professor Duncan Nelson, who is Professor of English Literature at University of Massachusetts and a poet, to offer us a poem, as he did earlier in another presentation.
Thank you all. As my straw hat, I first don and then doff. Check your cell phones, and if they're on, turn them off. At this point, I don my bardic bays, and as prelude and in honor of the heavenly Shravani, who as a preview came here short weeks ago to the Annisquam Village Library. That was the preview of the main and indeed irresistible attraction of this evening. So this slightly modified is the warm-up. Pre-Shravani, some had reason to wonder, why would Swami Vivekananda choose to come to Annisquam? Post-Shravani, no one need ponder. For how else was New England to meet a man whose curriculum vitae was one whose span ran from the Upanishads to the Bhagavad Gita? So here's cheers to Swamiji, a world figure destined to be acclaimed wide and far, whose ever bright star shines tonight at the AVC, Annisquam Village Church. That's just the warm-up. How truly blissed out Annisquam is to have in our midst these modern-day swamis. Annisquamis, swamis, pretty good. Yogat Nananda and Tayagananda, in the lineage of Vivekananda, joined tonight in this tripartite service by Reverend Deirdre White. You, in your saffron robes attired, just as he did, have inspired us all to relish New England's Easting, to be fulfilled later on in our feasting on Indian fare. Such an appetite you have brought to us tonight, of the flesh and the spirit both, and how pleased we are to be so completely appeased by your very presence. The burning ember of Vivekananda is one we remember tonight, along with all of you in this now sacred Vedantic venue, whose touchstone steps we have eagerly climbed as the welcoming church bells chimed, recalling how once to this home of the cod and the lobster came one who recognized God in every woman and every man. When he spoke the words, sisters and brothers, there ran throughout the whole parliament of religion such a heaven-sent sensation of universal relation. What ensued was a seemingly endless ovation for this eloquent and exotic, turbaned rock star, whose hypnotic, spell-cast religions as points of a prism comprising universalism, each contributing, none detracting, every speech he delivered impacting with its combining of the sublime and the pagan, not only his own time and his own place at that exposition in Chicago, but like nuclear fission of a most benign variety, challenging all of human society to see that for our preservation, solely the power of collaboration provides in his very words the whole scope where abounds the divine grounds for hope. So in several senses, this providential visit we greet with reverential pride. In this country, the first pulpit perch of Swamiji was the Annisquam Village Church, to which we welcome.
Thank you, Duncan.
We have a poem written by Ruth Langland Holberg some years back and set to music by our own very dear Stephen Scotty, who left this earth a month or so ago. And even though you have these words in your bulletin, I will just read them and then I will sing them. O Annisquam, O village gospeling with river waters calm, O lovely Annisquam with pastures wide and green, your climbing road and hill, your old white-timbered spires, old cottages, grand sires, and village schoolhouse bell, your crooked turns to the sea with salt air like a balm. Oh, little Annisquam, with what simplicity you nestle under the sky, and with what quiet ways you hold the one who stays, eased and stilled as I. Eased and stilled as I.
Oh, We will now present a song that was composed by Swami Abhedananda, a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, brother in that sense of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Abhedananda came with Swami Vivekananda during Vivekananda's second trip in 1896, and he was perhaps the founder of the Vedanta Society of New York, and he stayed in that ministry for close to 25 years. He was a very renowned scholar, but perhaps more popular because of some wonderful compositions. So this composition that we will present to you today, it is as a praise for Swami Vivekananda, mainly for the universalist spirit that he endowed. So the refrain of this song is, "Oh Swami Vivekananda, you are our Vivekananda, but you are indeed the whole world's Vivekananda." It's a Bengali song.
আকাশ বাতাস ধনিয়া তুলেছে তোমার মোহন মন্ত্র, নন্দিত ধরা মন্দির মাঝে ধর্মের স্রোত গন্ধ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ। কিরণ উছলি উঠিল উদিলে যেদিন বঙ্গে, স্বর্গ করিল সুরভি বৃষ্টি বরষি আশিস সঙ্গে, প্রেমের পুণ্য প্রবাহে সাজিল গৌর নিত্যানন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ। ভূধরে সাগরে গহনে কাননে চাপিলে কত না নিশি, তুষার হিমানি গিরি কন্দর ভ্রমিলে কত না দিশি, অঙ্কুর পুন শঙ্কর জ্ঞান শাকের ত্যাগানন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ। জ্ঞানের গরিমা গৌরব গান ভারত মর্মবাণী, পাশ্চাত্য শ্বেতা বেদান্ত গাথা শুনি বিস্ময় মানি, স্নিগ্ধ ভাবের শক্তি মাধুরী মুগ্ধ নূতন ছন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ। শিকাগো সঙ্গে সঙ্গীত তব শীর্ষে উঠিল ভাসি, শুনিল বিশ্ব শুনিল নিঃস্ব শুনিল প্রাসাদবাসী, সৃজিলে শ্রীমঠ কুঞ্জ কুটির তীর্থ মুখরানন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ, মোদের বিবেকানন্দ তুমি গো বিশ্ব বিবেকানন্দ।
I'm honored to be here. I'm going to switch things up a little bit with some hip-hop yoga. So I know a lot of you probably don't like rap or don't listen to rap, but try to keep an open mind because these lyrics were inspired by Swami Vivekananda. And I'm gonna need your help because this is a celebration, so I wanna kinda get some energy lifted and you guys can help me out. So I go by the name Be More 7. 7 is a divine number in many different traditions and spiritual practices. Be more divine. And I'm going to share with you 7 words that I learned from the cover of a book that was given to me by the Vedanta Society of Providence after my last performance. And some of you are probably familiar with these words. Stop not till the goal is reached. Okay, so when I say, this is my first time trying this out, so I need your help. When I say stop not till the goal is reached, I want you to say stop not till the goal is reached. Think you could do that? Yeah. All right, let's try it out and then we'll get started. Because I don't have my music, so we're just going to switch it up a little bit. Stop not till the goal is reached. Stop not till the goal is reached. That was pretty good for the first try. All right. So I'm just gonna jump in, and then when I get to that part, you guys just help me out. All right? Vision, perception, perspective, illusion, shifting appearances, forming confusion. You were never born and you will never die. The soul is beyond life and death or the sky. Vision, perception, perspective, illusion, shifting appearances, forming confusion. We were never born and we will never die. The soul is beyond life and death or the sky. Vedanta, all paths lead to same truth, searching for unity in everything that we do. Truth is one, destiny, fate. We cannot escape, so we camouflage, do not break. Satchitananda, Vivekananda, the mind is an instrument, don't let it wander. The world is one, not better or worse. Merging into oneness as the strength of the earth. Have faith in yourself, if no one else, because others might let you down, but God will help bring you back up. Whose will is in control? Even when we think we are, we're really stuck in the mold. Realize that every soul connects perfectly. Knowledge is finding unity and diversity. We should put our minds within, not force our minds on them. Don't force concentration, meditate, Zen. Don't stop till the goal is reached. 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 All right. It will take tremendous vigilance and perseverance to know but little of that which is within you. Knowledge is but only harmonized experience. Just take a look around, because all is continuous change. Rearrange. When things get strange, let go or get caged. The powers of the mind are like rays of light dissipated, but when they are concentrated, they will illumine and all will be consecrated. This is our only true means of knowledge. Cosmic energy, seeds grow to flowers, cycles, infinite, akasha, pranayam, so many differences. It's hard to get along. That's why we need to rely on truth to stay strong. Vivekananda teaches lessons that can't go wrong. Teaching the religion of fearlessness. Don't stop till the goal is reached. 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 Don't stop till the goal is peace. Don't stop till the goal is reached. Don't stop till the goal is fearlessness. The goal that we strive for, always wanting more but not working towards. We speak of many things and never do them. Fear holds us back. Don't react, just pursue them. See what becomes of it. Don't turn your back and quit, even if it only seems like it's a little bit. Change can be equipped to happen overnight. Don't give up until you get it right. Bringing truth to the light is what he's about. Vivekananda thus spake to big crowds, gave us muscles of iron and nerves of steel. Don't conceal his truth, massive and unreal. This is not about finding religion. He taught us how to manifest divine within. This is not about finding religion. He taught us how to manifest divine within. Vision, perception, perspective, illusion, shifting appearances, forming confusion. You were never born and you will never die. The soul is beyond life and death or the sky. Vision, perception, perspective, illusion, shifting appearances, forming confusion. We were never born and we will never die. The soul is beyond life and death. Thank you.
Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. It's a great honor to be standing here, and a great honor for all of us to be sitting on the very pews which were installed just a year before Swami Vivekananda came. So Some of us before this service today took a walk along the Leonard Street and saw a couple of places where Vivekananda spoke and stayed. And what many of us felt and experienced was just the awareness of the fact that these are the roads on which Vivekananda himself walked 120 years ago. We believe that when an enlightened being, by enlightened I mean someone who has been able to go beyond the limitations imposed upon us by our human existence, someone who has transcended all the weaknesses with which we experience our daily lives. Such a person, wherever such a person lives, moves, and breathes, that place gets sanctified. And as I was walking along the street this little while ago, I was looking at the old trees and especially the big rocks, because I knew they were definitely there. Other things may have changed, but those were the things that were blessed by seeing this child of God who came and lived in this village not too long ago. And so it's with great, but I'm quite overwhelmed really to be standing on this spot. Perhaps it was this very spot that Vivekananda spoke when he spoke here in the August of 1893. And the talk that he gave was on manners and customs of India. And a year later, when Swami Vivekananda came here, he spoke on life and religion in India. That was one of the first things that Vivekananda had to do. He was the first Hindu teacher and monk to come to North America. And not only did many people in this part of the world not know about life and culture and religion of the people in virtually across the globe, but not knowing is one thing, but there was a lot of misconceptions about the culture and the religion there. And so therefore, in the early period of Swami Vivekananda's arrival in North America, he spent a lot of time, and he was also invited to speak primarily on the manners and customs of the people in that part of the world, and of course the religion there. And in one letter, Vivekananda said what he later on claimed would be his life's work. And it's put in such a beautiful way that I would like to read out to you his own words. This is what he wrote. This letter was dated February 17, 1896 to one of his disciples in Madras in India. And this is what Swami Vivekananda wrote. To put the Hindu ideas into English and then make out of dry philosophy and intricate mythology and queer startling psychology a religion which shall be easy, simple, popular, and at the same time meet the requirements of the highest minds is a task only those can understand who have attempted it. The dry, abstract non-dualism must become the living, poetic in everyday life. Out of hopelessly intricate mythology must come concrete moral forms, and out of bewildering yogiism must come the most scientific and practical psychology. And all this must be put in a form so that a child may grasp it. That is my life's work. And those of us who have spent our life studying and trying to understand what Vivekananda taught, see how philosophy and theology can be so abstract, and Vivekananda made it so real. He was able to express those ideas in an idiom, in a language which we could understand, and yet not dilute those highest teachings. I would just mention only 3 of the essential teachings of Vivekananda, which I believe was his special message to the Western world. He once said, "I have a message for the West as Buddha had a message for the East." One of the first things that he did was to make us aware of what is the essence of religion. What does it mean to be religious? When each of us says, "I'm a believer, I have faith in God," what exactly does that statement mean? And Vivekananda pointed out that religion does not involve simply a certain belief in a certain dogma or doctrine, but it's with experience. It's not so much what I believe in or how often I go to a church or how many books have I read, but how am I as a person? How my beliefs have transformed me? Has it made me a better human being? Has it made me more unselfish? So the test of one's religiosity is not about how much I have read or how much impressive way I can talk, but how am I as a human being? And one other thing that he mentioned about this was that as people who take religion seriously, we don't have to be afraid to question. We must be bold. We do not have to accept anything blindly and feel free to question. And this was an approach that was much appreciated by many of the sincere seekers of truth in this part of the world, among which was those who the tradition that is now upheld by the Unitarian churches in the country. That is why it's the Unitarian and Universalist churches that welcomed Swami Vivekananda. They were among the first in the country, first churches in the country to invite him to speak. One very significant contribution that Vivekananda made in our understanding of religion was that he taught us to look at things from the subjective standpoint. Normally, when we look at something, our tendency is, why is that thing that way? And what Vivekananda said is, while that's a legitimate way of seeing and questioning, it's also important, in addition to saying, why is that thing that way, to ask in a subjective way, why am I seeing it that way? And what is not often recognized is that what we see outside and how we interpret what is happening outside, how we interpret other people's actions, how we interpret the events outside is very much dependent on which way my mind is colored. If I am able to make an intelligent change here, then the world will change for me. And that is why if you ask 10 people, describe the world in which you live, and there'll be someone who says, oh, this is such a wonderful place, it's so good. And at the other end of the spectrum, you'll find people saying, oh, this is selfish, people are terrible, da 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 da. So we see, apparently, we are all living in the same world, and yet we have such a range of opinions about the world. And that's not necessarily because the world is different to each one, it's because the lens of my mind with which I see the world is different. And Vivekananda taught us, encouraged us, emphasized the importance of seeing things from a subjective standpoint. The second important thing that Vivekananda taught was about, he asked us to look at service in a very different light. The idea of service has been there in the East and West, and especially in the West, the idea of charity has been there. It's been for centuries. People have been very charitable. But what does helping someone mean? What does service mean? Vivekananda taught that service is not necessarily, should not be limited to an act of compassion, but can be seen as a worship. That if it is true that the divine is all pervading, then the divine is present in every person I meet on the street. The divine is present in the homeless person I see. The divine is present in a hungry person. So if I'm helping someone, it's not so much of a compassion, but recognizing the divinity in that person, then that becomes an act of worship. I would encourage you, some of you may have seen an article that came 2 days ago in New York Times. It was titled, The Charitable Industrial Complex. Have any of you seen that? It was written by Peter Buffett, who is a son of Warren Buffett. And let me quote you 2 paragraphs from it. I think it's very thought-provoking. And this is what he says. As more lives and communities are destroyed by the system that creates vast amounts of wealth for the few, the more heroic it sounds to give back. It's what I could call conscience laundering. feeling better about accumulating more than any one person could possibly need to live on by sprinkling a little around as an act of charity. But this just keeps the existing structure of inequality in place. The rich sleep better at night, while others get just enough to keep the pot from boiling over. Nearly every time someone feels better by doing good, on the other side of the world or street, someone else is further locked into a system that will not allow the true flourishing of his or her nature or the opportunity to live a joyful and fulfilled life. So when we do an act of charity, when we help someone, we need to ask ourselves, are we really helping someone, or are we just trying to relieve a little bit of guilty conscience within? That I help someone and I feel good about it. But that's not the solution, because the defective structures remain intact. It's not just about feeling good about our service. And what Vivekananda pointed out was, if we are able to become truly unselfish in our heart, then not only will we be able to help other people, we might be able to find a way of creating social structures which are more just, where people can be truly happy. It's not just a question about keeping the more or less a kind of a tenuous balance in the world in which we live, but really creating a truly just society. And finally, Vivekananda today, although in the Parliament of Religions where he spoke, he was one of the many speakers, but because of the impact that he has made both in the East and the West, he has become a symbol of interfaith understanding. He showed us how to deal intelligently with diversity. Today, it's impossible. Every society, any part of the world has become so diverse in terms of race, gender, class, religion, culture. It's impossible now to go out anywhere and not find people who think differently, who dress differently, who believe in a different way, who have different ways of celebrating their festivals, who have different ways of understanding religion and God. And what Vivekananda taught was a central teaching in Vedanta, and that is what's called unity in diversity. Yes, the diversity has to be celebrated. It's wonderful. But we need to look deeply in the diversity that exists around us and find that below, as a foundation of that diversity, is that unity. There is something that unites us all. And when we become aware of that which unites us, then we are able to celebrate and really feel fulfilled by the diversity. The diversity then will not threaten us. We won't be afraid of something very different when we look deeply and find that there is something that we share. There is so much we share in common. That is why I would like to conclude by reading a passage from Vivekananda's works. His public life was very short, only 9 years. He came here in 1893. In 1902, before he touched 40, he was gone. But within those 9 years, the lectures, classes, the letters that he wrote, the conversations that he had, now comprise 9 volumes of his complete works, approximately 5,000 pages. So it's a huge output for such a short public life. And it's not easy to pick a passage from that which would be very inspiring. So what I've done is there is one passage which I truly find it very uplifting, and I believe you might find it uplifting too. So I'll conclude by reading that passage from Vivekananda, which I believe has today a very special significance for all of us. And this is what he said. I accept all religions that were in the past and worship with them all. I worship God with every one of them, in whatever form they worship Him. I shall go to the mosque of the Muslim. I shall enter the Christian's church and kneel before the crucifix. I shall enter the Buddhistic temple, where I shall take refuge in Buddha and in his law. I shall go into the forest and sit down in meditation with the Hindu, who is trying to see the light which enlightens the heart of everyone. Not only shall I do all these, but I shall keep my heart open for all that may come in the future. Is God's book finished, or is it still a continuous revelation going on? It is a marvelous book. These spiritual revelations of the world, the Bible, the Vedas, the Quran, and all other sacred books are but so many pages, and an infinite number of pages remain yet to be unfolded. I would leave it to open for all of them. We stand in the present, but open ourselves to the infinite future. We take in all that has been in the past, enjoy the light of the present, and open every window of the heart for all that will come in the future. Salutations to all the prophets of the past, to all the great ones of the present, and to all that are to come in the future. Thank you.
The children of the Annisquam Village Church have prepared a short play on the arrival of Swami Vivekananda in Annisquam.
In Chicago, Swamiji has been struck speechless with amazement at the wonders he is seeing at the World Fair. After a few days, he goes to the Exposition Information Bureau.
Sirs, when is the Parliament of Religions to commence? I am sure that you can do it.
Well, sir, it is to commence on September 11th. What is your name, sir?
Swami Vivekananda.
Can you spell that for me, please? No, I don't see your name on the list of delegates. Can you have applied under another name?
I didn't apply.
You didn't apply. You see, sir, no one will be accepted as a delegate without proper credentials and references. I would ask you for your credentials and references, but in fact, the time for being admitted as a delegate is long past. So I am sorry, sir, that your statement that you are to represent Hinduism is in fact not accurate and cannot be honored.
Out of curiosity, sir, do you have proper credentials and references?
I have no credential other than being a Hindu monk with a good knowledge of our scriptures.
You may claim that, but we would need references to bear that out. In any case, it is too late to apply for registration as a delegate. Good day, sir.
Swamiji is slowly walking back to his hotel room.
What fools we were to think we could come here and be accepted as a delegate. It's typical of our country's organization. This country is so expensive. I have to spend money like water. I won't even have enough to last until September 11th. But what's the point if I can't speak at the Parliament? Those fair officials are so implacable. All the money we raised for this trip, what should I do?
That night, Swamiji is lying on the floor of his hotel room.
Oh, therefore, what should I do?
Gandhi! Hoot, man! Get up!
Breezy Meadows. Kate Sanborn has just received a telegram.
My, this telegram is from Swami Vivekananda, my distinguished friend from the observation car. He is at the Quincy House in Boston awaiting my orders, as he says. My goodness, I promised to introduce him to Harvard and MIT professors, Concord philosophers, New York capitalists, rooms of fame, position, means, with wonderful gifts in writing and conversation. But it's mid-August, not a soul is in town. How am I supposed to entertain my gaily dressed hundreds? But I can't let him down.
She telegraphs back. Yours received. Stop. Come today. Stop. 4:20 train, Boston, Albany. Stop. When Swamiji arrived at the Gooseville station near Metcalf, the crowd gathered for the mail received him in astonished silence.
Mr. Vivekananda, so glad you could come. I'm sorry you are getting all these stares and grins from these impolite people.
It's all right. Should I give up the dress of my forefathers?
Oh. Yes, of course. I feel embarrassed. I didn't brag so about them. They're all in the country taking their summer vacations. But I will write to them immediately and tell them that they have to come back to meet you.
Kate Sanborn's friends do indeed respond to her frantic appeals for help and cut their vacation short to meet this very special guest. Quickly, Swamiji becomes the center of a circle of admirers, visiting homes of several of them. One evening, he is speaking to a large group. Among other things, he says,
God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere. Every point in this circle is conscious, living, active, and equally working. The universe is a power composed of the great infinite. In that power, only one point is conscious. When you get out of the limited center of body, you will find God, your true self.
Oh, my head is spinning. I have to go lie down.
One of Miss Sanborn's friends who could not come to Breezy Meadows is Dr. John Henry Wright, professor of Greek at Harvard. After hearing about Swamiji, he is very eager to meet him. He invites Swamiji for a weekend at his summer home in Annisquam. They hit it off immediately. During that visit, they have wide-ranging conversations covering all manner of subjects. The professor is very impressed. His whole family is charmed. Swamiji says to Professor Wright,
I have given up all hope that I would be able to speak at the Parliament of Religions. I am without credentials and references, but I feel that I am the divine call to speak at the Parliament.
But Swami, you must speak there. This is the only way you can be introduced to the nation at large. To ask for your credentials is like asking the sun to state its right to shine. I am a friend of the chairman of the committee of this election. I will write to him immediately.
I can't thank you enough.
Professor Wright goes to his desk and dashes off a letter to the chairman.
for the love of the matter. This man, Swami Vivekananda, certainly should be seated to represent Hinduism. Never mind the deadline for application. This is trivial compared to the chance to hear from this profound man. He doesn't have credentials and references. We'll all credential him and be his reference. Here is a man who is more learned than all our learned professors put together.
I'm speechless with gratitude.
A few days later, Professor Wright comes calling at Breezy Meadows.
You are truly God's instrument. Prominent religions. Much has been said of the common ground of religious unity. I am not going just now to mention my own theory, but if anyone here hopes that this unity will come from the triumph of any one of the religions and the destruction of the others, I said to him, "Brother, yours is an impossible hope. Do I wish that Christians would come to become Hindu? God forbid. Do I wish that the God of Buddhists would become a Christian? God forbid." If the Parliament of Religions has shown anything to this world, it is this. It has provided to the world that holiness, purity, and charity are not the exclusive possessions of any church in the world, and that every system has produced men and women of the most exalted character. In the face of this evidence, if anybody dreams of the exclusive survival of his own religion and the destruction of the others, I pity him from the bottom of my heart, and point out to him upon the banner of every religion will soon be written in spite of resistance, help and not fight, assimilation and not destruction, harmony and peace and not dissension.
Is it grace? Is it grace? This work that's in my soul begun. short that's in my soul begun. Makes me strive, makes me shine, seems to shine. Mercy's free, mercy's free, mercy's free, mercy's free, mercy's free,
Dear Swami Yogatmananda, Swami Tyagananda, and Reverend Greenwood White, and friends. In the opening remarks by Reverend White, she had mentioned a confluence of ideas and perhaps something behind the scenes that's bigger than us all. Swami Tyagananda talked about walking the road outside before the start of today's and feeling a certain energy, a certain vibration. Well, Swami Vivekananda, in his writings, specifically in his commentary to the 19th verse of the second chapter of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, he explains this idea of places of pilgrimage and the idea of temples. He said it's not that Providence has predestined some zip code or some address to be a place of worship or of pilgrimage. And it's not the bricks and mortar. It's not like we can go to Home Depot when we're building a secular building, and Temple Depot or Church Depot to buy the materials for a church or a temple. But it's due to the vibrations of the people that visit there. And he explained this as if a flower gives off light vibration and scent vibrations in order to attract those that are in relationship to it, the birds and the bees. A spiritual person gives off similar spiritual vibrations. The technical word is Tan Mantra. And so Swami Vivekananda, being a personage of huge spiritual dimension, has illumined all of the places he visited. And so that's the reason when I look out and I see a room full of devotees here, gathered here today to celebrate this. So we are part of something bigger, something of this unfolding of energy. And when Swami Vivekananda wrote about Jesus Christ, whom he called the messenger, he said that soul released such a large amount of energy onto the world that it's still being unfolded even today. And I think to some degree, we can say the same thing about Swami Vivekananda. The energies and the teachings that he's unfolded, has released on the world, are still unfolding and still taking new shapes in new dimensions. And that, I think, is part of what Reverend White was referring to as us being part of this greater, something bigger than us all. And so today we had a historical visit to Salem and then ultimately to here in Annisquam. And historic visits and following the footsteps and the teachings and recounting the teachings of great sages are valuable and sentimental in and of themselves. But ultimately they must serve as a look forward, to re-energize each of us to the commitment of the ideals that were first taught by the spiritual luminary who graced the presences that we go on pilgrimage to visit. And what were those? Well, we've heard from 3 different speakers on the ideals of Swami Vivekananda. Simply put, each soul is potentially divine. And the goal is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature, external, internal. We do this by work or worship, by psychic control or philosophy, by one, more, or all of these, and be free. That is the essence of religion, according to Swami Vivekananda. And so, as we gather here today in memory of these things, let that be the background for which I will now give thanks to all of the participants for this joyous and inspirational occasion today. You see, we have a lot in common. The shared points are Swami Vivekananda's ideal of work and worship. The Annisquam Church, if you go to their website, they have balanced action, balanced contemplation and action as one of their ideals. Unity without demanding uniformity. Dialogue without dictation. I think Swami Vivekananda would support all of these points. They are part of the larger Vedantic view of the religion of the future. Because myth and ritual and philosophy will always be different as they come up in different people, in different times, in different cultures. But the commonality of the goal that we all seek, unity with the Godhood, is the unity within the diversity. And so with that, I'd first like to begin by thanking everyone. In order to have speeches and sermons and music and plays requires participation by people listening and appreciating. So it's a two-way exchange of vibrational energy. So thanks to everyone who participated. But in specific, we'd like to extend thanks on behalf of the Vedanta Society of Providence and the Ramakrishna Vedanta Society of Boston. First to the pastor, Reverend Deirdre Greenwood White, and the members of the Annisquam Village Church for hosting today's event and for being part of our celebration. Secondly, to our speakers, Reverend White, Swami Yogatmananda, and Swami Tyagananda, for their inspiring recollections of some of the high points of Swami Vivekananda's teachings and the influence that he has had in the area of religion. Third, to the Scala Cantorum, the students who presented such an engaging and entertaining presentation of the arrival of Swami Vivekananda, and I'll go in the order of their characters. So Swami Vivekananda was played by Jet Sayes. Narrator 1 and John Henry White was played by True Sayes. Narrator number 2 and official number 1 was Kyle Watts. Kate Sanborn and official number 2 was played by Emily Frick. The butler was played by Benjamin Watts. And now I called it the student choir, and I think one other person may have slipped in under my, after I got the list of names here, so to the mystery person who also acted in the play, we thank that person too. Next, we'd like to recognize some of the key organizers and the folks who have made the dinner arrangements, which we will soon be treated to. That's Mahash Patel and Geetapan Patel. Again, we have all of the volunteers from both the Annisquam Village Church and the Vedanta Society of Providence that work behind the scenes to make all of this happen. Certainly without that effort, we could not continue a program like this. So our thanks to them. And now I saved the musicians for last for a couple reasons. If you notice, Vedanta, one of the key points of Vedanta is its ability to grow, accommodate new scientific knowledge and new styles. That's no more clear than in the variety of musical styles which we were treated to today. From traditional Indian music on sitar and tabla by Koil Ghosh and Rajesh Pyle, from a rap song from Hana Resinga, who usually comes complete with her own pre-recorded tracks and is very inspirational, uplifting, in a very modern style, to the choir, who treated us to several uplifting in songs in a traditional New England style, and especially to Kathleen Adams, who not only did the choir, but conducted and led the children in their rehearsals through the play. Our sincere thanks. And to our poet professor, we also extend our thank you for your life. for your lively contribution. So once again, thank you everybody for this most uplifting day. We're now going to have a song by Peter Travisano, a regular musician at Vedanta Society, and I think he will guide us through the words of this song. Thank you, friends.
Well, this song is a favorite in the Vedanta Society in Providence. It was first taught to us by a Vedantic nun named Helga, and it was intended really for the children to sing, but it really has become kind of a standard that we love to sing it, and I feel that it just speaks beautifully to the universal spirit that Deidre was talking about, and to the unity of experience that everyone really shares in this world that was so cherished by Swami Vivekananda. So this tune is called Namaste, which basically means in India, I salute the divine in you, and if you don't know it already, you'll pick it up before too long. So the main thing is, vocal quality is less important than volume. So we want to all sing out and enjoy this as we wrap things up before the beautiful unveiling of the plaque. Namaste, namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. You may be from Africa, you may be from Asia, you may be from Australia, but there's something the same in all of us. Namaste, namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. You may be from America, you may be from Europe, you may be from the islands, but there's something the same in all of us. Namaste, namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. You may be a Christian, you may be Islamic, you may be Hebraic, but there's something the same in all of us. Namaste, namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. If you're Native American, Buddhist or Taoist, or if you're a Hindu, there is something the same in all of us. Namaste, namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. Namaste, namaste, I salute the divine in you. In India they say what's so true, I salute the divine in you. I salute the divine in you.
I want to thank you for all being here, and also to invite you downstairs for a wonderful meal. And before we eat, we'll be viewing the Annisquam section of a video that, yes, I won't forget. We'll also be viewing a video. It's a composite of photographs, archival photographs, and speech about Vivekananda's time in Annisquam. And before we go downstairs, we are going to unveil a plaque which will be in our church commemorating this event and the relationship that we hold dear with the Vedanta societies, of Providence and Boston and around the world in our connection with Swami Vivekananda.
Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Sachit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharini.
My name is Hirak Shah from Senator Bruce Carr's office, and he just apologized for not being able to make it. He got stuck in a previous engagement, but wanted to make sure that he had representation, and he just wants to extend his well wishes, and again apologize for not being able to be here. But thank you. It's a beautiful plaque as well.
Thank you for being here.
Near Cape Am in Gloucester, Annisquam is a charming seaside resort. In summer, this quaint village starts bustling with visitors from far and near cities. Some of these seasonal visitors have also made this village their temporary summer home.